was the last part was about pain, and Fagwan, who's here, mentioned about having painful headaches, and even though we know in theory that they're just dhammas that are anatta, it's still taken for me.
我们上个星期呢讨论的主题是痛。那宝广师傅也在嘛，宝广师傅也分享了头痛。虽然我们理论上知道痛只是痛，并不是我的，可是真的痛起来的时候呢，还是当成是我的。
And sometimes we just think all we want is less pain, but actually the understanding of just what appears, not the thinking about the long story about it, is what is most precious.
那这个的差别是在于，当智慧真的了解痛的时候呢，他跟去想着跟这个痛有关的一连串的故事，我们一痛就会想着各种情境故事哦，这个是不同的，真的了解的是最珍贵的。
And I'm glad Kunilapa has just joined, because I was going to add a little more to her questions. The first one related to a strategy, like one may have some kind of strategy to say, it's not my pain and it's just dhammas and it's anatta. But this is not the understanding of what appears.
昆妮娜帕，我们在接续着上次的那个身体的痛哦，那么 Sarah 有一些点要补充，就是继续讨论，就是跟上次我们讨论的身体的痛，那其中一个现在要补充的就是，有时候呢我们会陷入一个把无我当成是一个工具哦，说啊这不是我的痛，这不是我的痛，想要借由这样子来降低那个痛哦，但是这个当然并不是正确的方法。
We can repeat over and over again, there are just chittas, chaitasikas, and rupas, and none of them are mine, and it's not my pain. But this is not the way, because it's still the idea of trying to have a result. It's not the understanding of just what appears now.
那么有些人会说啊，就只是心，只是心所，只是设法，只是这些法在生命，它并不是我，不是我的，一直重复这样子来告诉自己。可是这个不是正确的，为什么？因为他心里面其实是希望有一个结果的，他是希望透过这个来降低痛的。
The pain seems to last and last, but actually it's the thinking, because of thinking. The thinking thinks about it, lasting. But the thinking is just a dhamma. The pain is just a dhamma. What is there at this very moment?
那个痛好像是持续着的哦，但是这很大一部分是一直在想，一直在想，一直在想。我们习惯这样子，一直想着它，它就一直在那里哦。那这个并不是真的了解它为什么是无我的。
So the point of listening, discussing, studying, understanding the teachings is just to understand what appears right now. So if there is no pain now, there cannot be understanding of pain now.
那么我们一再呢一次又一次的听闻佛法、讨论佛法、思考佛法，它的重点呢是要了解现在出现的法。如果现在并没有痛呢，那痛是没有机会被了解的。
For example, when sound is heard, when sound appears, no pain at that moment, but sound could be understood. But so quickly there's the thinking about the story of pain again and again, because it's the object of dosa, an unpleasant feeling.
那么比如在听的那一刻呢，只有声音被听到，对不对？那一刻并没有痛哦，但是接下来思考的时候呢，又一直在思考的那个痛哦，因为那个很容易成为嗔恨，因为它会伴随，因为这不愉快的感受很容易成为嗔恨的对象。
So it's not a matter of following a strategy, trying not to think about pain, trying not to have painful feeling. but just understanding what is here and now at this very moment.
所以并不是一个策略呢，要来摆脱这个痛哦，降低这个痛，不要去想它，或者一直告诉自己它不是我的，而是真的要去了解它。
What about the clinging to that feeling, clinging to pleasant feeling? It's real too. It can be understood a little now when it appears.
那相对的那个愉快的感受呢，那个会被直取的愉快感受呢，它也是哦，也是要一点一点的慢慢了解的。
So there has to be the gradual letting go of the idea of arranging what we would like to appear, trying to stop the unwholesome thinking, trying to have more understanding, and just letting the understanding work its way, just understanding what is here and now.
所以最重要的就是让智慧自己自然的缘起去了解、去增加，而不是试着要赶快避免不善，要赶快多一点智慧，让智慧自然的去做。
And Kunilapa, you asked for clarification of what I had said or what we had discussed about the hardness, the rupa that impinges on the body sense, which is a condition for the experiencing with painful feeling or pleasant feeling.
那上个礼拜也有另外一个点呢，是昆汀纳帕提到的，就是在痛的时候呢，那个时候的所缘其实只能是土元素或火元素或风元素嘛，有碰触才会有声势升起嘛。那昆汀纳帕有提到说，好像并没有觉得有碰触，就直接身体就痛了。
Just as the seeing now couldn't arise and experience the visible object if no rupa of color or visible object had impinged on eye sense. In just the same way, there cannot be any experiencing through the body door of hardness or heat or a tangible object if it hasn't impinged on the body sense.
就好像是在眼门呢，如果眼根没有射程的撞击的话，那眼视是不可能升起的。同样的，在生门的过程，那个生根呢，如果不是因为土元素、风元素或火元素呢，不是因为这个所缘的话，那生视也不可能升起。
There are rupas such as the color or the sound or the tangible objects of temperature or hardness, softness, arising and falling away all the time, but they don't all impinge on the sense space.
那么一直都有色尘啊、声音啊这些土风火元素啊，它们现在一直都在生灭啊，但并不是每个都会触及这个近色哦，不管是眼近色还是耳近色还是身近色。
So only if the hardness now or the temperature, the heat or cold impinges on the body sense, makes contact with the body sense, can there be the experiencing of that hardness?
只有在有触及的时候，然后那个身是有条件，果报也成熟了，它也升起了去经验这个触及的这个对象的时候呢，这个经验才会发生的。
And if that experiencing is the result of wholesome karma and kusala karma in the past, it will be the experiencing of a pleasant object. But if it's the result of akusala karma in the past, it'll be the experiencing of an unpleasant, an undesirable object.
那这个双武士都一样哦，不管是这个哪个感官根本，如果是一个善的业结果子善报的话，那经验的对象就是一个可喜的所缘哦。反过来就相反，不善的业报的话，经验的是不可喜的所缘。
So at the moment of touching a very hot object, like when burning one's finger, when it's very extremely hot, or it's a very sharp, hard object that's experienced, at that moment of experiencing the unpleasant rupa, it is the result of akusala karma. And at that moment, the experiencing of that object is accompanied by unpleasant, painful feeling.
比如当我们的手指碰到很烫的东西的时候呢，那个时候是一个不善的业带来的果报哦。那个时候的生死是一个不善报的果报心嘛。那他在经验这个火元素的时候呢，他一定会有那个痛的感受一起陪着他。
But it's just for a moment. It's just for a moment there is the experiencing of the unpleasant object with painful feeling, and then it's gone instantly, never to return again.
在碰的时候呢，那就是一瞬间了嘛。那一瞬间其实已经过去了，然后其实接下来就是那个去想的那个痛。
Just like when there's the experiencing of a pleasant object, like a softness that is just right, and the experiencing is accompanied by pleasant feeling, which is also vipaka, result of past karma. It's just for a moment and then gone.
同样的哦，对，碰到一个很柔软的、很舒服的，那个是过去的善业带来的果报。那这个果报经验一个可喜的对象呢，有舒服的感受伴随哦，它是一样也是就过去了。
By conditions, not by anyone's choice or selection. And usually, after the experiencing, there is so much thinking about the pleasant object one would like to experience again and again, thinking about the unpleasant object, dwelling on the painful feeling that one doesn't like, thinking on and on, either with attachment or thinking with dosa when it's the unpleasant one. So it seems that it lasts, but actually this is the world of thinking through the mind door.
那么在碰到可喜或不可喜的所缘这个经验之后呢，那是舒服的也好，那我们不舒服，接下来就会去想哦，就开始在意门在一直想，是舒服的呢，就想要再执取，想要再重复，想要抓着；不舒服的呢，就会讨厌它。那所以其实那个经验感官经验只是那一瞬间，可是接下来是一门一直在想，一直在想的这个经验，舒服还是不舒服，喜欢还是讨厌。
So most of the unpleasant feeling is the unpleasant feeling with dosa when not liking the object and thinking about the story of what has long since fallen away, just thinking again and again about the experience, taking it for real, when actually it's just the dream world, the story world that one is living in, thinking on and on about the story of the pain, my headache, my toothache, and so on.
那么因为就是这个累积很深的思考的习惯呢，只要是不舒服的感受，一般是以嗔恨的去想的这个不舒服的感受嘛，然后就出现了各种很长的故事了啊，这个是我的头痛啊，我的牙痛啊等等是我的，这个是已经很习惯这样子思考了。
And it's so natural. It has to be like this, but there can be a little more understanding of what is real right now. For example, the moment of hearing now, no painful feeling, no thinking about the story of the pain. At the moment of seeing now, just the experiencing of what is seen. At the moment of kindness, no thought about oneself or one's problem or one's headache. So there can just be a little more understanding of just what appears now.
但是这个习惯性的思考当然是很自然这样思考的，那是了解呢，智慧的了解可以一点一点慢慢的增加哦，可以了解在看的那一刻是没有痛的， 好，在对别人慈爱、关心别人的那时候是不会有痛的。
And as Ajahn stressed last time, I think there can be joy at moments of understanding that they are just dharmas arising by conditions. They cannot be any other way. None of them belong to me at all. Not the pleasant feeling or the unpleasant feeling, not the moments of seeing or the moments of bodily pain, whatever arises. They're just different dharmas, conditioned to be just the way they are.
那么也是老师有提到哈，就是在了解的那一刻呢，可能是喜悦的，好，了解了什么，真的了解了，即使是理智上这些法，不管是什么法，不管是愉快的啊、痛的啊，身体看啊、听啊、被看到的、被听到的，这些都不是我的，它就只是法。
Vanilla pie, is it a little clearer now?
格尼拉帕，关于痛呢，有没有比较清楚一点？尤其你说好像身体痛，没有感觉到有所缘碰到就痛了。
就首先就是非常感谢莎拉对我这些病痛的这么详细的解释。关于这个痛，因为我这个痛也是我也不知道是，就是我们说也是认为也是一种以前的业报。然后我这个痛的时候，我一直在想一个问题，就是本来我们的身体，我们的色是应该不会痛，痛应该是心里的感觉。可是我在痛的时候，就是明明的，就是知道那个地方在痛，就是在肉体上面的痛。然后，如果我们讲说肉体不会有这个舌应该是没有感觉的话，那么这个痛它是怎么样能够并不是我们所想出来的，因为它痛，它就是明明的在那边。那么在痛得很厉害的时候，我们就会想到说，应该用什么样的方法来可以使得这个痛减轻，这个是一般人的常态。所以我就会想一些办法，结果有一些办法也真的能够使到这个痛的那个部位会减轻。因为我以前在痛的时候，我是痛到晚上没有办法睡觉。等到后来我找到一些方法可以减轻我的痛楚的时候，我就可以利用那个方法就可以睡觉。所以我后来我一直在怀疑，我一直是想不通说，这个痛，它是明明是在那边，它并不是我们所想出来的。
OK OK，
就是有一些矛盾。
好，我先把这几个 point 跟大家讲一下哈。
好的。
Firstly, Kunilapa appreciate being thankful to Sarah's detailed explanation on the painful feeling, bodily painful feeling. And secondly, she explained some confusion, like even though she know Rupa does not know anything, Rupa does not experience. The Vedana is Nama, the mental. But when some part of the body, when the pain is there, it seems it's over there. It's because the physical is related to the rupa. That's the first part, not clear. And second is, even though we're thinking about the dukkha, the pain that just passed away, but still the the pain on the physical part can still keep coming. It's, it seems it's there, not because of thinking. And the third part is the third one, the last one she mentioned is the pain can be so acute, so great that she could not fall asleep. But somehow she finds some method to manage it, and it's work. It's not related to Dhamma.
So the first point, yes, painful feeling is Vedana, we have two kinds of unpleasant feeling. One is the Vedana that arises with bodily experience, which we call painful feeling. And the other kind of unpleasant feeling is that which arises with other chittas. So other chittas in the body doorway and other with other chittas and sense doorways, and the chittas also in the mind process.
首先呢，的确哈，我们那个不愉快的感受可以分为两大类哦，一个是在身体的部分这里所发生的，在身根这里发生的哦，跟身体有关的；另外一个是内心的时候嗔恨，想着某个所缘的时候所带来的不愉快的感受。
As you say, there are two kinds of dhammas, the namas which experience the object, including Vedana, and the rupas that don't experience, don't know anything at all, such as the tangible object that's experienced through the body door.
那我们知道法被分为两大类嘛，民法那些去经验的，包括了感受去经验某个对象而有愉快或不愉快、痛或舒服哦。那另外一个就是色法，色法当然不能去经验嘛，他什么都不知道，所以就像这些土元素、风元素，他们并不知道自己被经验了。
So it seems that pain is in the body, but what is actually experienced at a moment of touching or experiencing through the body can only be hardness, softness, heat, cold, or motion. No pain is experienced through the body sense.
那么虽然身体的某个部位在痛哦，但是从佛法里面我们知道，那个痛之所以会发生，一定是有什么去经验嘛。那个感受去经验的对象，一定是火或土或风。
So the Vedana arises with every chitta in life. At moments of seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting, the Vedana is neutral feeling, even though it may seem that there's pleasant or unpleasant feeling when seeing or hearing. Actually, it's always neutral feeling at those moments. But at the moment of touching an object, because of the impact of the object, it's always experienced with pleasant or unpleasant feeling. The feeling experiences exactly the same object as the chitta, the chieftain experiencing that object.
这个感受呢，我们知道它是每一刻都伴随着心升起，一起去经验那个所缘哦。那么就身体的5个感官门来讲呢，双五识来讲呢，前面的4种眼识、耳识、鼻识、身识呢，它在经验所缘的时候呢，色尘、声音等等，它是中性的感受。这个时候的感受去经验的所缘，它一定是中性的。但是在身体这一个感官门的时候呢，身识的时候呢，它只有2种哦，就是痛，就是不舒服跟舒服这2种。
Without the Buddha's teaching, we would have no idea. We would always think, I experience pain in the body, but actually no I to experience anything. There is just the experiencing with painful feeling for a moment that experiences the rupa. And the rupa is just heat or hardness or motion at that moment.
如果不是佛陀的教导呢，我们是不会知道，并不是我在经验这个痛哦。那一刻的真相是，身识升起了，那有感受伴随，然后去经验的火或土或风，然后那个时候是不可喜的对象，所以那一刻的经验是不愉快的，是痛的，但是它不是我在经验。
And as we know, there are 3 kinds of dukkha. The first is the one you mentioned, dukkha. Even though even those who have never heard the Buddha's teachings know about dukkha. They know when there's painful feeling, it's dukkha. They know that when there's a lot of anger or aversion and there's unpleasant mental feeling, it's also dukkha. This is dukkha dukkha.
那么我们知道，在第一圣地呢，苦圣地里面，苦可以有3个面向哦。第一个是不用佛陀讲，我们大家都知道的 dukkha dukkha，就是因为这个不愉快的感受、不舒服的，或者是内心嗔恨的时候的不愉快，就是跟感受有关的不愉快的、不喜欢的。
And like you say, the pain may be so great that one cannot sleep or one cannot sit comfortably. This is dukkha dukkha at those moments. But what about the dukkha when it's such pleasant feeling that one clings to and would like to experience again and again, but it also doesn't last for a moment, like the unpleasant feeling?
那么就像刚刚提到的，这个痛呢，可能会让我们睡不着，或者是坐的也很不舒服哦。好，这个痛呢，但是另外一种苦呢，就是我们一直想要去抓住的那个愉快的感受，它其实已经不在了，它一直不在，一直想要再去有，想要再去有，它愉快的不在了，它也是个苦啊。
This is the second kind of dukkha, which is a more subtle viparinama dukkha, the pleasant feeling which falls away instantly, but is the object of clinging again and again, and a reason why we mind so much about the unpleasant feeling, because of clinging so much to having pleasant feeling.
所以这第二种苦呢，苦圣地的第二个面向还是跟感受有关哦，就是坏苦 viparinama dukkha，这个会让我们感到愉快的对象呢，其实已经过去了，但是一直要想要去抓，一直想要去抓住哦，这个愉快，所以这也是一种苦哦。那也是因为这个苦，才会那么在乎那个不舒服的苦。我们很在乎舒服愉快哦，越在乎就会越讨厌那个不舒服的。
No one comes to the discussion and says, oh, I've got a real problem, too much pleasant feeling. The pleasant feeling keeps coming again and again, and there's so much clinging to it. No, because of the pleasant feeling. We like it so much, we would like to experience it again and again. But this is dukkha too, because actually that pleasant feeling falls away instantly and is a condition for more and more clinging, more and more aversion to unpleasant feeling.
我们在讨论的时候，没有人来讨论的时候抱怨自己有太多愉快了，没有人在抱怨哦，舒服是一个问题哦，就是大家不会去抱怨这件事情。那这个其实是更细微的一个问题。那也因为这一再又一再的享受这些愉快的感受呢，这个贪爱之取越来越深，那就越讨厌那个不舒服的感受。
And the third kind of dukkha is sankhara dukkha. This is what the Buddha taught about and what the first noble truth refers to. Whatever is conditioned is dukkha. Even the indifferent feeling now, any reality which arises and falls away is dukkha because it doesn't last.
那么苦圣地的第3个面向，也就是圣人才能够真正体证的，就是跟感受无关啊。任何生灭的法都是苦，这个叫行苦哦 ，sankhara dukkha。任何这些法它有原因升起，它就灭了。它不可能在那里成为依靠，它不可能成为满足。这个是任何的生灭法都有这个特征哦，行苦的特征。
So we mind a lot about the unpleasant feeling. We cling a lot to the pleasant feeling. But what about ordinary indifferent feeling now? What about seeing now? What about hearing now? What about kindness now? What about understanding now? Each reality arises and falls away, not worth clinging to for an instant. So in the deepest sense, whatever arises and falls away is dukkha.
那所以我们一般在乎的都是舒服啊、不舒服、愉快不愉快这些感受，但是现在的中性的感受呢、眼视呢、我们关爱别人呢、智慧呢、了解呢，不管是什么法，其实它本身也是有苦 苦的特征哦，不能够带来满足的特征。
And this is why there has to be the gradual understanding of whatever appears now, because no matter it's unpleasant feeling or pleasant feeling, seeing, hearing, sound, visible object, is conditioned and gone instantly. So there has to be the gradual letting go of the idea of I or something there right now, no matter what appears.
必须要能够真正的、慢慢的了解这些，不管是什么法，不管是眼视啊、愉快啊，任何的声音什么的法，它是有原因升起就灭了，就灭了。这个真相呢，必须要慢慢的了解，才能够慢慢的放掉这个执取哦。
So is there painful feeling now, Kunilapa?
昆尼拉帕现在有没有痛的感受呢？
现在是没有啊，反正没有去想它，没有去想它，它也不会痛啊。就是很感谢莎拉的详细解释。
No, there isn't. And also, there's not thinking about it. It's not there.
Right. All gone. So that's why the understanding, the study comes back to what is here now. Otherwise, one just keeps thinking about one's experience last night or what will happen if the pain comes back. But life is just in this very moment. So there has to be the beginning to understand just what is here now.
这也是研读佛法的重点核心，就是现在啊，了解现在正在出现的法。好，否则总是在想着我的某个经验哦，昨天的某个经验，或担心痛还会再回来。可是要开始就是累积了解现在出现的法，否则一直在错过现在出现的法。
谢谢。
OK，其他人有没有要问这个问题呢？就是那个痛好像一直在那里。OK，John, any further you would like to comment on?
We talk a lot about what is there in a moment, but what is there now? What about the understanding of we have heard about it?
我们讨论了很多哦，那现在在那里的是什么呢？对现在在那里的是什么的了解呢？有吗？
So no matter how much we listened and thought about, without understanding, there is the very precious moment from hearing, considering. It has to be moment of understanding what is there, as we have heard.
那么，所以不论我们讨论了多少哦，我们学了多少，但是一定是要了解现在在那里这是什么，有没有任何的了解呢？
That's why we understand that never enough development of understanding to understand the truth of what is there right now.
所以这个了解呢是不够的哦，一直都不够的哦，一定是持续的去思考、去思会，在那里的是什么？
What is always forgotten is all dhammas, whatever it is anatta, no one there and nothing there. So what is it? Not to be anything.
那么常常被忘记的呢，是现在其实不管是什么法，不管现在出现升起的是什么法，它是阿那达，它都不是阿达，不是我的，这个常常被忘记。
That's why we talk just about seeing again and again, hearing again and again, what is there now again and again, to be conditioned, to begin to understand that what we heard is not moment of understand the truth, the nature of that which is now appearing.
这就是为什么我们一次又一次的去讨论，在看的是什么，被看到的是什么。那要慢慢的一次又一次的提醒，都不是人，也不是东西哦。
But without more understanding of what is heard, how can they be conditioned to understand that even right now it's there, as we have heard, but it does not appear to right understanding to understand it as it is, because understanding at that level is not enough.
但是虽然我们现在一再的讨论一再的思考的话，那因为智慧还没有到一定的阶段的时候呢，不管在那里的是什么，它还没有如实出现，因为那个智慧还不到那个阶段。
So the teaching of the enlightened one is not just to be heard and understood by way of just listening and hearing and considering. It has to develop more and more to understand the truth, the very, very
这个的培养建立呢，一定也只能透过不断的闻会思会，只有这样子一次又一次的慢慢的累积而已。
Is this right? Hearing about it is not moment of understanding the nature of it.
那真的是这样吗？在听的时候呢，还没有能够真的了解这个法真相的本质。
Learn to have more confidence of the truth. That is as what we have learned, but it does not appear as we have learned yet.
那么这个信心呢，有吗？就是说我们现在学到的，跟是不是真相，已经真的就如同我们学到的呈现出来了。
Buddha had enlightened the ultimate truth of this very moment. So he thought about each moment so very deep, but it's there as it is. No one can change it. That is the understanding of anatta, beginning to understand it. Actually, there's no one and no thing, but there are different realities.
那么佛陀是因为已经开悟了，他开悟了解了这些法，每一刻的法的真相就没有人，没有东西，只是这些缘起缘灭的法。那这个真相，他告诉了我们，我们也只是一点一点的在了解而已。
We can talk about the truth of seeing or hearing or whatever, but what about the understanding and the direct experiencing of the truth? So far away.
我们可以一直讨论这些法在看的眼是被看到的色尘这些法，可是我们真的有了解它吗？甚至我们有直接经验它们了吗？
But without any understanding of what is there, how can it appear as it is? It can appear to right understanding only because even it's now so true, but no understanding of it to understand each one as that which arises and falls away in split seconds.
那如果不是在理智上，至少理智上能够了解，越来越加深，那么这个法又怎么可能如实的呈现在智慧前面呢？只有智慧，它只能出现在智慧前面了。
Nothing to be done, nothing can be done, but it's there already by conditions. To learn to understand, to let go the idea of self, just want to experience it, even just that idea is wrong.
没有人可以做什么，没有什么可以被做的，因为每一刻都是缘它已经在那里了，没有什么可以被做的了，它已经在那里了，它只有可能被了解而已。
So to understand the truth, one has to understand from the very beginning what is the purpose, what is the point of listening to what is there now appearing.
那么我们学佛法呢，第一个要问自己的就是目的是什么？我们为什么要学佛法？为什么要去了解在那里的真相？
Not just to understand the story about it, but to understand that it's there appearing by conditions, condition it to arise to see and then gone right now, instantly.
我们不是学佛法要了解这些法的故事而已而是真的了解法，现在在那里的法， 它是有条件在那里的，然后就过去了。
Without firm confidence of the value of understanding of what is taught now, that it can condition moment of beginning to understand what is there now, which can be directly experienced when there is enough understanding.
那么当然有足够的智慧去了解，是因为慢慢累积来的。那这个足够的智慧呢，才能够真的有信心哦，就是真的知道这些法就只是缘起的，就过去了。
So how long it will take to have firm confidence of another's of whatever is there now, each moment?
要多久呢？要多久才会真的有坚定的信心在那里的？不管是什么法，它都是无我的，它不是我，不是我的。
The truth is that whatever is there appearing arises and falls away instantly.
I lost you. I don't know if it's my connection or your connection.
Not mine, I think. I think that that's mine.
Okay, I lost what you were saying.
I just talk about the truth right now. Can it be known without further more understanding and more confidence of the truth?
所以老师的重点一直都是在现在的真相哦，现在真相就在这里，每个法的真相，但是有没有真的去了解？
Is there other way? Try to understand it or listen more at moment of understanding. It's the path, right path to understand it clearer and clearer, very, very slowly, very natural and unknowingly until it's there at that level of beginning to be aware of that which is there now, as it is, little by little.
有其他的方式吗？除了听闻真相是什么，然后慢慢的去思考，慢慢的了解，一点一点了解真相是什么，然后才能够真的开始有那个条件去觉知现在在那里的是什么。
And how can it be as truly, naturally as it is?
那要怎么样才能够真实的如实的出现呢？被了解呢？
Is there any way?
有任何的方法吗？
If one tries to have one's own way, is it wrong or right? Without understanding. So only understanding itself make way to understand the truth, even it's there right now.
如果不是智慧，而是自己用自己认为的方法要去了解真相，这可能吗？只有智慧可以能够真的了解真相。
And the natural way is understanding the word about it, the truth about it. And that's not me. It's a moment of listening and understanding.
那么真正的方法是自然而然的哦，它并不是有一个我想要做什么去得到的，它很自然的在听的时候，在思考的时候，有可能有智慧了解，但它不是我，并不是我在做这些事情。
Otherwise, there cannot be moment of letting go to cling to what would be there by one's thought or desire.
如果不能够真的了解正确的方式呢，那就不能够真的放掉，慢慢放掉一个执取哦，用我的方式来做，我想要的方式来做，就不会真正了解培养正确方式。
So Buddha taught about the subtlety of what is there right now, because it arises and falls away in split second from moment to moment. So how can each reality be known as different ones?
那么佛陀的教导呢，告诉了我们这个法的深奥哦。现在在那里的法，它的生灭是这么快哦， 它全部都混在一起，怎么会一个一个能够被清楚的知道呢？
For example, seeing right now and the object which is seen gone instantly, what follow? Who knows?
比如现在在看，对不对？被看到的那一瞬间就过去了，那接下来是什么呢？谁知道？
And Buddha taught about what is there after seeing it, the process of seeing on and on. Ignorance,
那
no understanding of what is there at all as it is.
那么佛陀告诉了我们，在看之后呢，接下来是什么？有什么样的心路过程？但是一般都是无明哦，所以怎么会知道呢？
Is there ignorance now?
现在有没有无明？
It has to be one's own consider to understand whether it's right or wrong.
必须是自己真正去想通，到底是这样子是对的吗？还是不对的？
So to be truthful to the truth, is there ignorance at the moment of seeing?
所以我们对真相要诚实哦，在看的那一刻有没有无明？
See, without understanding this, how can one understand what is meant by ignorance? So it's the ignorance now after seeing.
那如果我们不能够知道在看的时候有没有无明呢？我们怎么能够真的了解真相呢？所以在看的时候有无明吗？
See, and what's the word of the Buddha? If we
佛
haven't,
陀怎么说？
how can there be
他
the
说
understanding of what is there after seeing?
那如果不是因为佛陀的教导，那我们怎么知道在看之后是什么在那里呢？
Is it ignorance right after
看之后
seeing?
是无明吗？看了之后有没有无明呢？
So very deep because it's so very, very slight. The avijjasava, that degree of kilesa.
它非常的细微哦，就是在看之后呢，就会有无名的漏 a v i j a s a 吧，无名的漏非常的细哦。
So avijjasava is not just the word, it's there to be known that there is avijja because there's no understanding of seeing.
那不是只是一个字哦，无名的漏，这不是只是一个文字，它是非常非常细，它是可以被了解的。为什么不能够懂演示？因为演示之后就是无名啊，接下来都不知道。
And who knows what is there too? Not only avijja, sorry. And who knows, it's not only avijjasara, there's also the reality which is asava, so very slight and so very deep too. Followed seeing instantly.
那在演示、在看之后呢，除了无名漏以外，还有其他的漏，还有一些贪爱啊、邪见漏等等。
We have heard a lot about asava, but just forget. No thought about it. Even we are going to talk about it. So what is that too? Not just avijjasava.
那我们讨论过漏，之前讨论过很多的漏，但是又忘了，对不对？现在在看之后就有漏。那除了刚刚提到有无名漏以外，还有其他的漏。
Those who read about it, is there any memory of what has been read?
那些读过有哪些漏的，还记得吗？有哪些漏呢？
to begin to understand how deep and subtle each reality is, even if there is not known, even it appears no understanding of it, because of aswa.
也因为这个漏，在感官经验之后，立刻就有这些漏，一定都有无明在，不管是哪个漏，一定有无明在哦。所以这些都不被知道，就不有无明在，当然不会知道。
So aswa is not in the book, it's not in the text, but each word of what Buddha said just pointed to what is there right now, which has to be known. Otherwise, ignorance is there. And not only ignorance, what else as aswa? If he didn't say about it, can anyone know?
所以这个漏呢，不在书里面哦，那个漏就在现在哦。佛陀的话呢，都是在指出现在这个法的真相哦。那这个非常细微都没有被知道，这个太细了。那不是佛陀讲，我们也不知道嘛。那是有哪些漏呢？
Those who have heard about it, can it be conditioned to think about it, to begin not to forget about it? The other aswa, what is it? One by one.
那么已经听过这些漏呢，或读过这些漏的，现在有没有条件能够想起来，记得是哪些漏呢？我们一个一个讨论，有没有谁要讲一下有哪些漏？
And it's now the way to understand it, because not forget about what is there, which is so deep.
那么这些讨论是不要忘了，现在的真相是这么的深奥。这一刻
Does anyone know? The other
有没有
aswa.
人知道其他的漏呢？有没有谁要讲一下欲漏或者是邪见漏？Hi, Jack, please go ahead.
If the word's asava, it would be the craving for existence and craving for non-existence and sensual pleasure? Or was it a different word? Was it asava?
Yes, it's asava, long A, S-A-V-A, and it refers, as Ajahn was mentioning, to the very subtle attachment and ignorance that follows after seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, 3 more moments, and then the very subtle akusala with attachment and ignorance or wrong view. So there is a very subtle attachment to experiencing, to existing, the very subtle attachment to sense objects that you referred to. So now we may not think there's any attachment to what is seen or heard, but it comes in so quickly, long before there's any idea of sunrise or our friend or a computer or a sky. So it's a very subtle attachment. And the last one is Ditthasava. Sundra, could you mute your microphone, please? So the last one is Ditthasava, and this is the very subtle clinging with wrong view. So like now, no thought about Vincent or Ajahn, but so quickly after seeing or hearing, there's the clinging to something, someone, to visible object, to something or someone, so quick, so instantly, Ditthasava. So it's the very subtle attachment with or without wrong view and ignorance that arises long before there's thinking about the story of who's there or what is there.
很快讲一下哈，这个漏呢有4种，第一个就是无明漏，老师刚刚提到的。那另外3种呢，有2种是跟贪爱有关的，一个是对感官的愉悦的贪爱啊，一个是对想要继续存在去经验的贪爱，这有2种不同的贪爱哈。 那第四种就是邪见漏，好，不管你看到就是前面的贪爱呢，我们先补充一下，就是我们以为看到什么好像没有贪爱哦，其实那一瞬间呢，那个爱的漏欲爱的漏就立刻去直取了。那邪见漏也是一样哦，我们可能不知道一看到什么就把它当做是一个人或东西了，可事实上邪见漏在那里，你都还不知道什么事情的时候呢，它就已经被当成是个人或东西了。这就是老师刚刚一直强调，因为无明在那里是不会知道的，所以有四种漏，无明漏无明一定都在，这是无明的漏，还有另外两种贪爱跟邪见。
So it may seem there's not much attachment now, or now when we're listening to the Dharma, it may seem there's not much wrong view or not much ignorance, but actually it's arising again and again and again after seeing and hearing now, and in between the thinking about painful feeling and so on, this clinging again and again to what is seen and heard, unknown, but good to know it's there. So that's why the other day, Drake, when you were asked whether there was ignorance now or wrong view now, and it might seem that because it's Dharma discussion, not much, but actually most of the time, even now, there's ignorance and attachment arising after seeing and hearing and so on. So the moments of kusala are very few and far between compared to all the unknown ignorance and attachment moments.
那么因为这些漏呢，我们以为自己好像没有什么太多不善哦，我们觉得好像在看听闻常碰之后呢，并没有什么贪爱。事实上，它其实就已经在那里了，它没有被知道哦。但是我们在理论上知道有这些不善是很好的，因为所以在痛之后呢，因为无明的关系，不知道真相，不知道那个其实法是无我的，所以立刻就会执取，或者是讨厌，接着就会去想，就去讨厌。就会在无明里面思考哦，不善的思考。那所以刚刚 Sarah 也举例了，刚刚那个 Drake 之前有被问到说，现在有没有无明呢？我们以为我们在佛法讨论好像没有什么太多的不善哦，但事实上在看听闻常之后呢，立刻就有这些很细很细的不善法，这些漏在那里了。
But the point about the asavas is that it's subtle, so they don't appear. By the time there's any idea of the attachment appearing or the aversion appearing, it's no longer asava. So the asava is the subtle clinging, the subtle ignorance, unknown.
那这些漏呢是非常细微的不善哦。当我们注意到已经有贪爱的时候，已经有嗔恨的时候，那个已经不是这个漏了，那个已经是开始变洪水了。Sean, are you going to say something? No. I mean, okay. Drag, do you want to respond or?
Yeah, I was hoping to learn more about clinging because it sounded like Sarah was saying that when there's pleasant feeling, then we cling to the pleasant feeling, but we're not aware of the clinging until it goes away, and it's the intensity of the aversion that arises in relation to its absence or the appearance of unpleasant feeling that it kind of indicates that we've been accumulating clinging. Is that what I'm...
So when you say you'd like to know more about clinging, Craig, what are you referring to exactly? You'd like to be able to identify it when it happens, or what?
Yeah, well, first, just to know what it means, because I didn't really know that.
Right. So there's a mental factor called loba. Oh, sorry. You go ahead
Sorry,
and translate.
OK，刚刚讲这个贪爱漏呢，Drake 想要多了解一下什么叫贪爱哦，因为这个 我们一经验之后呢，然后就会对愉快去执取嘛。那一没有愉快的时候呢，可能又嗔恨没有愉快啊。那当然，这个嗔恨呢是跟愉快的强度有关的，就跟你贪爱的强度有关的。所以Jack 想要多问一下什么是贪爱。那刚刚 John 是先确认一下，他想要知道贪爱的意思是什么。好，
Yes, the mental factor of Lobha, which I'm sure you've heard of, it's one of the three roots, Lobha, Dosa, Moha, has the characteristic of attaching to the object. But this covers what in conventional terms would be a wide variety of things. For example, liking, clinging, wanting, and it has degrees of intensity, mild to strong, of all of those things. But they all have the same basic characteristic. So when we taste something that we like, there will be attachment, meaning.
首先呢，这个贪爱呢是个心所哦，在不善的里面呢，我们知道三个不善的类型，就是贪嗔痴嘛。那个贪爱，那它的特色是什么？它的特色是粘上去，去执取那个他想要的对象哦。那在我们日常生活中呢，其实当我们喜欢什么、想要什么的时候呢，这些都是跟贪爱有关哦，只是不同程度的强烈而已。
And clinging, Lobha, is of course one of the unwholesome mental factors. And for this reason, many people think that it needs to be eradicated, it needs to be abandoned. And in fact, that is what the teachings tell us. All unwholesome characteristics are to be abandoned and eventually eradicated.
那么贪当然是不善的法，当然是不善的法。那我们从教导里面，我们不善的，我们就立刻想要跳到根除它了。的确，这个教导是最终要根除这些不善法的。但是我们好像在一开始就想要跳到，就不要它出现了，就不要它了。
But there seems to be a general view out there that if there is recognition of and what is loosely called awareness of the clinging, then that will promote its lessening and eventual eradication.
那么但是John, I could not connect the beginning, right? Okay.
Right. There seems to be a general view among many people who study the Dhamma, who claim to practice the Dhamma, that by being aware of, in their terms, clinging as it arises, that will be a condition for its lessening and eventual abandoning.
OK， 一般的看法是这样子啊，一般的看法是，当贪爱出现的时候，我如果能够去觉知它呢，那我如果能够觉知到它在那里，我就能够逐渐的能够去根除这个贪爱。
But this is not the teaching of the Buddha. The Buddha explained that unwholesome tendencies will manifest because they've been accumulated. And there is nothing that can be done that will reduce the intensity of the accumulation.
但这并不是佛法真正的教导，佛陀真正的教导，因为这些不善的累积的习性呢，它是有条件升起就会升起的，它没有什么你可以做去阻止这一个习性的累积。
And as we have said here a number of times, and I think you'll be familiar with this now, the development of the path is about a better awareness and understanding of what is appearing at the present moment. And this means there's no need to go looking for specific unwholesome tendencies in the hope of having some effect on the frequency of their arising.
那么就像我们这边一再强调、一再讨论的，就是正道的培养是了解现在出现的任何的法，是没有去挑选它的，所以并不是心里面想着针对贪爱，我能够多了解它一点就可以根除它，并不是这样子。
But of course, the more we discuss these different mental factors and their characteristics, and reflect upon that, there may be conditions for them to appear more often than they have done in the past.
当然啦，这些不同的法、不同的心所呢，我们一再的讨论它呢，如果常常讨论它，它会成为一个条件，或许它会出现哦，在跟我们没有讨论之前比的话。
But there's no need to actually focus on a particular kind of unwholesome mental factor. And if perhaps you could let me know if that's any clearer about your question of knowing more about clinging.
Yeah. So
所以重点 ，Sorry, Direct, let me quickly translate. 所以重点是了解现在任何出现的法，而不是去挑选某一个特别的法去了解。
I'm curious then if we recognize the aversion that arises in relation to a painful feeling, is that the right path of developing understanding? To know the aversion in the moment is unwholesome.
Well, it's a start to know more about it at an intellectual level. And as we know more about what awareness and understanding is, then there may be conditions for there to be some awareness and understanding of it. But normally, we can recognize aversion. Anyone actually can recognize aversion, whether they've heard the Buddha's teaching or not. And that kind of recognition is not to be confused with the the aversion becoming the object of awareness and understanding.
好，首先这个很重要哈。Direct 在问的是说，当嗔恨的时候呢，如果能够认出它来，认知到有嗔恨的，那知道它来了又走了，这没有帮助吗？啊，那首先这样的回复是，我们在理智上呢去慢慢了解这些，但我们传统上每个人都可以知道生气哦，每个人都知道什么是愤怒，但是你认出来，你察觉到，跟他成为觉知的对象，真的成为觉知的对象，这是不一样的。
So when we talk about the subtle attachment, for example, as we often do, the purpose is not so necessarily that it can become more apparent, but just to reflect that that is the way things are. And again, the development of the path is still about some awareness and understanding of whatever is appearing at the present moment.
所以当我们讨论这个贪爱漏的时候呢，它非常细微。我们讨论的目的不是希望它变得明显，可以被知道、被察觉到，那只是知道真相是这样子运作的。那真正正道的建立是了解现在任何出现的法，而不是去针对那个细微的漏让它变得明显。
Or does that sound like another catch-22, Drake?
Well, I was curious to learn about the distinction between like just knowing that there's aversion versus awareness and understanding, knowing the object as it appears.
那个所以如果你只是针对某个法呢，好像就是要去捕捉它一样。那个 direct 他的意思就是说，他只是想分清楚，你知道你注意到有嗔恨的时候，跟你觉知到有什么不一样。其实这个是一个很关键的问题哦。
Well, I suppose that's similar to the difference between knowing what sound is and awareness and understanding of sound appearing at the present moment. It's a qualitative difference because the conventional knowing of something like sound or aversion or attachment is not a moment of wholesome consciousness because it's just a conventional knowing. Whereas when those realities are known by awareness and understanding, it is because that awareness and understanding that has also been accumulated in the past. There are conditions for it to arise and take the reality as its object.
那么这个问题呢，关于对象如果是嗔恨或贪爱呢，其实就跟声音一样哦。现在就有声音，对不对？我们也会知道有声音啊，声音过去了。可是这跟觉知是不一样的哦，这个只是我们传统上说知道有声音的，它不见得是善的。好，但是当我们说觉知的时候，那是因为觉知跟智慧已经累积了，它累积到一定程度的时候呢，它就更容易升起。那么这个或许声音或者任何一个法可以成为觉知跟智慧的对象。
So that awareness and understanding will know something about the true nature of the reality that is its object at the moment. For example, that it's the reality which experiences an object, or that it has the characteristic of sticking to the object in the case of attachment, or that is impermanent in anicca, dukkha, anatta, something like that. And there's no sense of it being awareness that attachment that I'm having at the present moment, or my attachment.
那么当这个对象呢，任何一个法呢，它成为觉知跟智慧的对象的时候呢，这个时候觉知到这个法，这个时候的智慧可以去了解哦，可能了解哦，这个法是能去经验的特征，或这个法是贪爱执取的特征，或者这个法是生灭的。那当然这是看智慧的强度了。那所以在那一刻呢，智慧可以去了解一些跟这个法有关的真相。
Because these things are just realities that arise by conditions that are unknown to us and that cannot be influenced by us.
那这些法是不能被我们影响的，因为它是缘起的，它是有缘升起的，并不是我去影响的。刚刚我漏了一个哈，就是那些经验觉知的时候呢，并不会想的是我在觉知，而不会。
Drake, I think there were most excellent points that were raised by Jonathan then. That I think, and he mentioned earlier on there that these factors like knowing the difference, I thought the example was a good one between, say, sound, which we can conventionally recognize. Anybody can do that. You don't have to have heard of the Dhamma, the Buddha Dhamma, to know that. We're very conventionally aware of that. So it is, at one level, when that is pointed out to us, we can begin to see that conventional understanding of, say, awareness or sound, which can, especially sound, may appear now, and there can be the gradual development of some understanding of it apart from that conventional idea about it. But listening to Jonathan then, I thought he summed it up so very well that it's easy to get confused between what we consider awareness, sati, and also its true nature. So I think those points were really very, very well made. Thank you.
OK， 那刚刚
Break
Sundra 只是
without, sorry.
OK， 那Sundra 只是很快的同意，就是肯定那个 John 刚刚讲的那几个重点啊。那这些声音上，我们传统上认为是声音，那我们分不清楚注意到法跟觉知到法，是因为我们还不了解什么是觉知哦。Sarah?
Yes, Drake, without clinging, would there be any aversion at all?
Well, I guess not. I think there's, like Jonathan said, there's liking, wanting, and attaching to the object. And so does that word attaching to the object mean that we want it to stay, and then when it disappears, we'll feel aversion?
We just like it, we cling to it. Yes, we'd like it to stay, we'd like it to arise again. There's clinging. So without clinging, no aversion at all. So only when there's no clinging to sense objects is there no aversion. So without clinging, no concern, no problem, no despondency about the pain or the painful feeling or the unpleasantness at all. So this is why there are the two arrows.
那个这边的重点就是 Sarah 问那个 Drake， 就是关于如果没有贪爱会有嗔恨吗？那就是提到就是说这个贪爱要到或要不到呢，就会有嗔恨，就是想要再继续，然后期望想要落空等等，所以这是他们之间的一些关系。
The first arrow is the painful bodily feeling we've been talking about, which even the Buddha and the Arahats had to experience the result of karma. No one can stop painful feeling arising. But the second arrow is the arrow of unpleasant feeling which accompanies the dosa because of clinging. So for those with no more clinging to sense objects, there is the first arrow, but not the second arrow, the aversion and with unpleasant feeling on account of those experiences.
那么 Sarah 这边在解释第一支箭跟第二支箭。第一支箭，比如说我们身体上的疼痛呢，这是过去的不善的业带来的结果。那这个当然佛陀也会有不善报，佛陀也会有身体的疼痛，所以第一支箭呢是果报。那么第二支箭呢，是因为第一个箭它的不愉快的经验呢，它产生了嗔恨嘛。因为你想要的是舒服，可是这个经验是不舒服的，他嗔恨这件事情，这个是第二支箭哦。那第二支箭当然是那个佛陀当然是没有第二支箭，因为不会有嗔恨的嘛。但是我们现在的问题其实是在第二支箭。
So that was the point of what I was saying earlier. We think of the problem as being the pain, the painful headache, the painful earache, with painful feeling now. But what about the pleasant feeling now? What about the clinging to pleasant feeling? And what about whatever arises in samsara? Because whatever arises falls away and is dukkha, is dangerous, because it's the object of clinging again and again.
所以我们当然一般凡人会认为问题是在于痛嘛，在第一支箭。好，可是那另外关于愉快的感受呢，那个对愉快感受的贪爱执取，其实也会是越强，也会是之后的嗔恨越强的原因呢。这也是一个问题。那当然有更细的问题，就是行苦这些生灭的法。Okay. John, would you like to say something?
I'd like to this moment to understand this moment. Okay. Is there aswa right now? Each word of the Buddha is so very subtle, because if there's no understanding of the subtlety of whatever is there can never be the letting go. What is there which is so very deep? Just want to know this or that, or want to have less and less akusa and so on. But what about the very subtle reality that has to be eradicated too?
那么我刚刚问老师有没有什么想要再说、再补充的？老师说他想要知道这一刻的真相啊、所以老师继续刚刚讲的漏的这个主题。那现在有没有漏呢？那么这些虽然是很细微不被知道的法，但是它终究还是目标，还是要他们会被根除哦。当然要从了解现在没有挑选的法开始。
Anyone who would like to have no anger, irritation at all, does that person understand the condition for it to arise? In order not to have it, there must be the eradication of condition for it to arise.
每个人都希望不要有不愉快的感受，不要觉得被打扰干扰。但是能够知道为什么会发生这些吗？发生这些的原因是什么吗？
That's why if you don't understand the subtle reality that has to be eradicated yet, how can it be eradicated?
所以对于法，虽然它很细微，如果它终究是不能被看到、被了解，那它怎么可能被根除？
Is that true? Just consider what is said with is true or not, in order to have more and more understanding of the truth.
真的是这样吗？那我们听到了，我们仔细的去思维思考，真相是不是真的这样？
I'm sure that Kun Greg have heard about the four asava. So what are the others? Not just avijjasava, which is there now too, unknown, to be known.
John
So,
means Drake, not Greg. Yes, Drake.
Right. Right.
Clinging to sensual pleasure and clinging to self-view and clinging to views and opinions.
Jack, what did you say the last one? Cling to what?
Views and opinions. Maybe I'm...
Okay.
Is it there as aswa right now? Naturally, unknowingly, because it's aswa, it's always I, even now, talking, seeing, hearing, thinking, anytime, right? It's there, unknown, but it's there all the time. And what about the other? There are four aswas, is that right? Real life, natural life, we are talking about the truth of life. What are there as ignorance and all kinds of akusala, one by one, to know the different degrees that is there in the day, in life, years and years ago, and continue on by conditions.
那么这边的讨论呢，还是在关于除了无明漏以外呢，另外几个那三个漏哈，就是我们刚刚讲的贪爱愉快的漏，贪爱存在去经验的漏，以及贪爱自己的看法这个邪见的漏。那老师的意思就是说，现在就有，对不对？我们现在在看，在想，这个时候其实它一直都在哦。
So it's time to understand what Buddha said is not in the book, but it's there right now, any moment. So now, are there aswas?
Yeah.
What are they?
Ignorance, attachment to sensuality and attachment to self-view and attachment to opinions and beliefs. I don't know.
I think the last one is attachment to becoming
Oh.
Drake. Yeah, rebirth and further existence.
Oh, what about now? Becoming now see, becoming now here. Bhavasava, whatever is there, is I, by way of Bhavasava, existence, becoming. See? So in order to understand each word of the Buddha, in order to realize his virtue so great, we have to understand that deep and subtle truth of any reality, even just the word asva, see, who knows? Because we can see who is sitting, who is walking, but what about now? Are we sitting now, or walking now, or standing now? Not known at all. Is that right? Bhavasava is there. I. So
那个
that's the word.
四个漏呢，现在在讨论的是巴巴萨巴，就是我们翻成 becoming 呢，就是一直在变成下一个。那现在是不是变成在看，然后又变成在听？不管你变成什么，那个法就灭了，就换下一个法。那老师说，我们现在看起来好像是有一个我在做，我在走，但是有吗？其实只是这些一直在变灭了、变灭了的法。但是这个是被执取的哦。我们就是有个贪爱执取这件事情，是想要继续经验下去的，不想要停止。
Can this kind of asva be eradicated?
这个漏能够被根除吗？
What about the book? What did it say about it?
Yes. With understanding.
Just the word, see, there must be the understanding whether it's there or not. As long as it's there, how can there be no one or clinging to being? And it's different from wrong view, see. It just clinging to being right now is not wrong view about it, but it's there already, unknown already all the time. That's why I think that when there is the understanding of reality, one begins to see Buddha as his Buddha, the one who sees, the one who understands the teachings, that one sees me. So do we see the virtues of the Buddha as the Samma Sambuddha, not just like someone who talk about the truth, just talk about the truth, but realizing the truth. So deep, much more than anyone else in the universe. Universes too, not only one. That's why we learn to understand that no one at all, just hearing. And what is that? Understanding is a reality. And no time for it to let go, because at moment the understanding is that it let go of the wrong understanding, little by little. And right understanding knows that we are learning about what is there in truth here, so close, not just think about it. So now even asva, the four asva, can be known, right? That is there as long as right understanding is not on the stage of realizing the truth. It's there. And different degrees of the realization of the truth too, from one moment to another moment, until it is the moment of enlightenment of reality. By then, Diddhasava and Avijjasava, which arises with that degree of Diddhasava, which is Diddhasava, never arise again. So miraculous. That which has been eradicated from life to life, years and years, cannot arise again. So what is meant by understanding what Buddha taught, what Buddha said, little by little, until the moment of realizing the truth of what we have learned, stage by stage. Kun Vincent.
OK 老师刚刚讲的重点，第一个是说这些能不能被根除呢？这些肉虽然很细微，可不可以呢？那个想要继续存在的，当然是可以哦。在经典里面，我们读到有阿罗汉嘛，他是可以被根除的。那他为什么被根除呢？他被看到嘛。所以这些肉虽然很细微哦，但是随着智慧的建立，现在虽然它并没有被知道，但是当智慧到一定程度的时候呢，这些的确是可以被看到。但它被看到就不算漏了，好，它被看到它就可以被根除了。那老师讲的第二个重点是，看到法才是看到佛陀，对不对？佛陀说你们看到法才是看到我，所以我们真的了解佛陀的伟大了吗？如果我们还没有真的看到法，其实我们还没有真的看到佛陀，看到他的品质哦。那第三个重点就是老师之前一直在强调的，就是要去了解法，这些法被了解，智慧才能够透过了解法不断的累积增加。
And it's time now